WVUT Vincennes, a part of Vincennes University Broadcasting.
Good evening. In the news tonight, an arrest has been made in the murder of IU student Jill Bierman, and President Bush is trying to diffuse some of the harsher talk about Iran by dismissing reports that a military attack has been planned.
And in sports, Phil Mickelson has earned his second Masters championship, and Jermaine O'Neal says the Pacers don't deserve to make the playoffs.
Newscenter 22 is next. Prosecutors say an Ellettsville man charged with murder in the death of Indiana University student Jill Bierman did not know her. Bierman vanished nearly 6 years ago while riding her bicycle near Bloomington. Her skeletal remains were found 3 years later. A grand jury has returned an indictment against 30-year-old John Myers, the second in the death of 19-year-old Bierman. The grand jury met for 4 weeks and listened to 90 witnesses. Myers was arrested yesterday. He's being held in the Morgan County Jail. An arraignment is scheduled for tomorrow. State police say their investigation is not over. They are still looking for an anonymous caller who reported seeing a red car that was in the area where Bierman was last seen. The petition drive for and against the Vincennes School Corporation's nearly $57 million building plan officially ended at 4 o'clock this afternoon. It is now up to the Knox County Auditor to count and verify the names on the petitions. The Auditor's office has 15 days to do so. Opponents of the plan say it's too expensive and will hurt property tax payers on fixed and low incomes. Supporters say the schools to be replaced are old, too costly to maintain, and don't meet today's educational needs. The school corporation wants to build a new middle school, 2 new elementary schools, and relocate Inman Field to Lincoln High School. A snag in the Knox County Commissioner's efforts to replace a bridge over the CSX railroad tracks in Fritchton, a piece of property needed for the project, has at least $500,000 in liens and judgments against it, much more than the land is actually worth. Since the county can't purchase a property, it is considering acquiring it through eminent domain. However, that process could be quite lengthy. The Fritchton Bridge has had a weight limit of 3 tons since 1960s. The major issue is its inability to support the weight of fire trucks. If the property issue can be taken care of in short order, construction could begin next spring. The Knox County Commissioners are still considering options for dealing with the fire-damaged Hillcrest building. The county received no bids on the building's repair. County officials had hoped the bids would give them an idea of the repair cost and whether it would be cost-effective to repair the building. Knox County Commissioner President Jim Bobe said today the county has received an offer from a not-for-profit organization to take the buildings off the county's hands. However, Bobe says no decision has been made. Repairs and modifications to a generator that powers Knox County Central Dispatch are being made after the generator failed to start when power was lost in the April 2nd storms that swept through the county. A manual start button that failed to work has been replaced, and an AC trickle charger will be installed soon to make sure the generator's battery is fully charged. Central Dispatch was without power for about an hour during the storm. Emergency calls were routed to Davies County during the outage. The Bicknell Water Department was issued a boil order for its customers in Ragsdale. Ragsdale customers are asked to boil their water for the next 48 hours due to a broken water main. A new state report says nearly 1,600 streams and lakes in Indiana are unsafe to fish or swim in because of pollution. The report classifies 30% of the state's streams and lakes to polluted for swimming or fishing due to pollutants such as bacteria, fertilizers, chemicals, mercury, and sediment. The Indiana Department of Environment Management says that although the number of polluted waterways list has more than tripled since 2002, it doesn't mean the water is getting dirtier. Officials say the state is simply doing a more thorough job of fighting pollution. Most wastewater is treated before it is discharged into the waterways, but rivers, streams, and lakes are still fouled by bacteria from sewer overflows and livestock manure runoff. Some waterways are tainted with mercury and PCBs. State highway officials say the Elkhorn Road US 41 intersection will be closed for repairs Tuesday. It's expected to be reopened to traffic on April 15th. Meanwhile, work has been postponed on the US 41 on ramp Willow Street due to material and equipment issues. The project is expected to begin April 17th. The ramp will reopen to traffic around April 21st. Closures on the US 41 Hart Street ramps will begin in May. Meanwhile, high water along the White River has closed a portion of a highway linking Knox and Daviess County. A State Road 358 from State Road 67 to State Road 57 will be closed until further notice. Indiana State Police, Shoals Police, and the Martin County Sheriff's Department investigated 2 Shoals residents Sunday for dealing in methamphetamine. 20-year-old Daniel Crodel and 18-year-old Natalie Gibson are being held in the Martin County Jail. Searchers have found the body of a man missing for more than a week after the vehicle was riding in plunged off a boat ramp into the Ohio River across from Evansville. Police recovered the body of 26-year-old Michael Sanders. In the same area, 2 other bodies were received about 120 feet. Downstream from Henderson, Kentucky boat ramp, police are still searching for another man, 21-year-old Stephen Parker. The bodies of 2 other men were recovered over the weekend. The 4 had been missing since the April 2nd accident. All 4 were from Henderson, Kentucky, and 3 were brothers. 2 Evansville women were found dead in the SUV. A 3rd Evansville woman was able to escape. Police say the SUV ran down a boat ramp when the driver made a wrong turn, leaving a bar. U.S. Steel says its gigantic number 14 blast furnace is good for another 20 years. The company recently spent more than $300 million to rebuild the furnace company. Officials say is part of the commitment to stay in Gary and protect the jobs of 4,000 employees. Still to come on Newscenter 22, President Bush says weekend reports of plans for a military attack in Iran are wild speculations, and some groups taking part in immigration rallies today around the country are urging an economic boycott to show their financial clout. Stay with us.
Marry a millionaire? Get real. Real college, real experience, real careers, really fast. Vincennes University Preview Days, April 21st or 22nd. Register at vinu.edu.
Win the lottery? Get real. Real college, real experience, real careers, really fast. Vincennes University Preview Days, April 21st and 22nd. Go to vinu.edu.
Tens of thousands of prosecutors are forming huge seas of white t-shirts in cities across the country. TV images show many of them waving U.S. flags. Big cities and small are seeing protests by immigrants and their supporters. Organizers call it a campaign for immigrants' dignity. In Garden City, Kansas, a demonstration drew an estimated 3,000 people. That's roughly a tenth of the farming community's total population. In New York, demonstrators are rallying in Manhattan. Mayor Michael Bloomberg calls immigration reform a controversial issue, but says it's perfectly appropriate to rally. The demonstrations are mostly peaceful, but in Portland, Maine, a demonstrator tangled with a small group of counter-demonstrators, one of 3 people carrying signs saying illegal immigrants have no rights, was hit in the head and taken away in an ambulance. In Tucson, Arizona, Sunday, people opposed to giving illegal immigrants amnesty are guest working status, burn Mexican flags. The group known as the Border Guardians believes Mexican immigrants are infringing upon the sovereignty of the U.S. by their attempts to influence legislation within the United States. They said the Mexican flag is a symbol of the government of Mexico and its lawless people who invade the U.S. and take in the streets to demand rights. President Bush says he wants to keep nuclear weapons, materials, and knowledge away from Iran, but he says diplomacy is the preferred way to do that. In a question and answer session with students in Washington, Bush dismissed weekend reports of plans for a military attack on Iran as wild speculations. A New Yorker magazine article suggested nuclear bombs might be used on Iran's underground nuclear sites. Elaine Keano has more on this story.
With concerns about Iran's nuclear ambitions growing and diplomatic discussions so far yielding little, one possibility the Bush administration has not ruled out is military action. But that option, say experts, is fraught with difficulties.
We should not fool ourselves to think it will just be a strike and then it will be over. The Iranians will retaliate, and they have many possibilities in an area where there are many vulnerabilities, from our troop positions to the oil and gas in the region that can be interrupted, to attacks on Israel, to the conduct of terrorism.
The White House insists it is focused on diplomacy, on working with the International Atomic Energy Agency and the United Nations. British Foreign Secretary Jack Straw echoed that, saying the Bush administration is pursuing a diplomatic solution with Iran, flatly dismissing the notion of a U.S. military strike.
It isn't on the agenda. I believe it's not on the agenda, and they're very committed indeed to resolving this issue, which is a complicated issue, by negotiation and, yes, by diplomatic pressure.
But investigative journalist Seymour Hersh writes in the New Yorker magazine that according to a single unnamed source, the White House wants to keep not only a military option on the table, but a nuclear option.
That doesn't mean it's going to happen. They refuse to take it out. And what I'm writing here is that if this isn't removed, and I say this very seriously, I've been around this town for 40 years, some senior officers are prepared to resign.
The idea of a nuclear strike on Iran is completely nuts.
And a Pentagon spokesman would only say, quote, Cy Hersh has a single anonymous source who is not in government, and both Hersh and the source have made fantastic, unverified, and wrong allegations before.
A senior administration official, while not denying the story outright, said people looking to draw broad conclusions based on military contingency planning were, quote, ill-informed or not knowledgeable about the administration's thinking. Elaine Quijano, CNN, the White House.
The U.S. military is adding 3 more Americans to the roster of those who have died in Iraq. The U.S. command says 2 soldiers from the 228 Brigade combat team died in enemy action in the volatile Anbar province west of Baghdad. And military says another soldier from Regimental Combat Team 7 also died in wounds he received over the weekend. Names and additional details on those incidents have not yet been released. Freedom Day in Iraq got off to an ominous start. A pair of explosions marked the 3-year anniversary of U.S. forces capturing Baghdad. In eastern Baghdad, a bomb planted inside a minibus exploded, wounding 4 people, and across town an improvised explosive device went off next to a police car. That attack killed 1 civilian and left 3 police officers injured. In Afghanistan, 2 back-to-back explosions rocked the city of Kandahar, south of Kabul. 11 people were wounded, including 2 children. The explosions following a string of bombings that have swept through the country in the last week. On Saturday, a car bomb was detonated outside a NATO base near the city of Herat. It killed 3 people, including the bomber. And on Friday, a suicide car bomber killed himself and wounded 3 Americans in the southern province of Helmand, southwest of Kabul. No group has claimed responsibility for today's explosions, but Taliban insurgents have carried out similar attacks in the past. As the second plane zeroed in on the World Trade Center, 1 passenger was talking by phone to his father. The father told jurors at the Zacchaeus Moussaoui trial today that his son suspected the hijackers would fly the plane into a building. He says his son assured him if it happens, it will be quick. Musawi sat watching closely and later said loudly, "Burn in the USA." The judge today warned prosecutors that too much emotional testimony could be grounds for appeal. Jeffrey Skilling says he's absolutely innocent of fraud and conspiracy charges tied to Enron's collapse on the stand in Houston today. Skilling declares, "I will fight those charges until the day I die." The former CEO says he never considered following the example of others, Enron's executives who made deals with prosecutors. For now, Skilling is facing friendly questioning from his lawyer, but prosecutors get a chance to cross-examine him when his lawyer is finished. The defense has argued throughout the trial that most of the Enron executives who pleaded guilty and agreed to work with the prosecution did so under pressure. The defense says they're all innocent. Skilling testified today that he believes the vast majority of those who testified for the prosecution aren't guilty. Skilling is on trial with Enron's founder, Kenneth Lay. It's another day of cleanup in Sumner County, Tennessee, where a tornado killed 9 people Friday. Officials say the suburban Nashville twister had winds of nearly 170 miles an hour. Another tornado killed 3 more people in Warren County, Tennessee. Retail gas prices across the country soared an average of nearly 17 cents in the past 2 weeks. According to the latest Landberg survey, analyst Trilby Landberg says the weighted average for the 3 grades increased to $2.69 a gallon by Friday. Self-serve regular averaged $2.67 a gallon. Among the stations surveyed, the lowest average price in the country for regular unleaded was in Salt Lake City at $2.28 a gallon. The most expensive was in Honolulu, where drivers paid $2.88 a gallon on average. A 911 dispatcher thought 5-year-old Robert Turner was playing on the phone, when in reality his mom was dying. And now the family of the late Sherelle Turner has filed suit against the city of Detroit, asking more than $1 million and claiming the dispatcher was reckless to dismiss the child's plea for help. Attorney Jeffrey Feiger says the little boy placed the call just as he'd been taught. When his mother collapsed, authorities arrived hours later after the boy's second call. But by the time Robert's mother was dead, 2 unnamed dispatchers are listed in the suit. But Feiger says the city is liable. The attorney says the mother had an enlarged heart, but contends she would have survived if it had not been sent immediately. Police are asking 4 women suspected of beating a 58-year-old Toronto man to death over a bingo game to turn themselves in. Yusuf Yukana was attacked outside a bingo hall late Friday after refusing to hand over the $1,000 jackpot he'd won earlier. Police say the woman kicked and punched the man. The victim stumbled back into the hall but died later due to his injuries. A published report says the Disney company plans to start making some of its most popular programming available free on the internet. The Wall Street Journal says the shows like Desperate Housewives and Lost would be available on a revamped website the morning after they air. The report says shows would be archived so viewers can eventually watch the entire season of shows from outlets including ABC and Disney Channel. New technology would be aimed at preventing viewers from fast-forwarding through commercials in an effort to keep advertisers happy. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Kurt Maddox has the latest weather for the Wabash Valley.
Tune into WVUT this Monday night. At 7, watch Antiques Roadshow. Stay tuned at 8 for American Experience. The Boy in the Bubble is the absorbing story of David Vedder, who had severe combined immunodeficiency and lived inside a sterile plastic chamber for 12 years. Then Road to Renewal at 9 looks at Hurricane Katrina's aftermath in New Orleans and on the Gulf Coast. Monday night on WVUT.
Well, Kurt, today was very beautiful. Are the warm weather here to stay?
Well, for one more day we can expect warm weather, but we have some thunderstorms on the way. Good evening, everybody. As we take a look outside, it's currently 67 degrees with wind at south-southeast at 9 miles per hour. The humidity is at 26% and barometric pressure is at 30.15 and staying steady. As we take a look at some area temperatures across the Wabash Valley, Huntingburg, Indiana is at 63 and sunny. Patoka, Graysville, Indiana, and Oblong, Illinois are all sunny at 64 degrees. As our national temps map shows, the Central Plains and most of the Southwest are in the 60s and 70s for now, with the high being in Tucson, Arizona at 75. Up in the northwest, we see some colder temperatures in the 40s and 50s. But over in the Great Lakes region, we'll see some 50s and some 60s that will stay around for a couple of days, then we'll go up near 80 later in the week. As our frontal map shows, most of the nation is dry because there's high pressure system over the Virginias and the Carolinas, and that's going to be moving out to the Atlantic here in the next day. But that's different up in the north and northwest over here in Montana and the Dakotas, where this low pressure system is bringing rain to the Montana, Oregon, Washington, California, and across Colorado and Utah. That should be making the way to Wabash Valley later in the week. But down here in Miami, they also have a little bit of rain that is making its way out of there. And over here in Texas, we still have this high pressure system that's going to carry through, and then the low pressure system is going to come through and go into the Wabash Valley where we have some rain. Now let's take a look at your forecast. Tonight, clear, low of 47. Tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high of 74. Tomorrow night, late thunderstorms with a low of 58. Your extended forecast, it's Wednesday, 74 degrees for the high and 54 for the low with scattered thunderstorms. Thursday, partly cloudy, 79 as the high, 60 is the low. And for Friday, we'll have thunderstorms as well, the high of 78 and the low of 58. And Emma, let's look at your weather.
Thanks, Kurt. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Michael Nice will have highlights from the Masters, plus the rest of the day in sports.
Next time on Nova, a monster unleashed.
Huge tornado get below ground. Damage is severe.
Now, a daring new breed of storm chasers is in pursuit.
Oh, there's a tornado.
Taking tornado prediction to the next level.
My dream is to be able to anticipate tornadoes before they occur.
But can they win the battle over the deadliest phenomenon in nature? PBS presents Nova, Hunt for the Super Twister.
Mickelson captures second green jacket. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Michael Nice. For a guy who couldn't win the big one, all Phil Mickelson is doing is winning big ones. Mickelson has now won 3 of the last 9 majors, including a 2-shot win yesterday at the 70th Masters. South African Tim Clark finished second. This is the back-to-back majors for Mickelson, who won the PGA Championship last year. Mickelson is the first player other than Tiger Woods to win consecutive majors since Nick Price in 1994. The Chicago White Sox spoiled the Detroit Tigers home opener, winning 5-3. Jim Thome and Joe Creedy each hit 2-run homers to back winning pitcher Freddie Garcia. Garcia allowed 3 runs on 5 hits, including Craig Monroe's 2-run homer in the second. Over in the National League, the Dodgers lead the Pirates 7-3 in the top of the 8th, and the Nationals and the Astros are tied 3-3 in the bottom of the 7th. Boston Red Sox slugger David Ortiz has agreed to a 4-year contract extension through 2010. Big Papi slugged 47 homers last season and led the American League with 148 RBIs. The Chicago Cubs finished the first week of baseball by doing something they hadn't done at Wrigley Field in 5 years. They swept arch-rival St. Louis in a 3-game series. Trailing in the 8th inning, the Cubs were carried to an 8-4 victory on a grand slam home run by Michael Barrett. Jock Jones had an earlier hit and a 3-run shot. St. Louis is opening another chapter in its long-established baseball tradition with today's opening of a brand new Busch Stadium. It's the third ballpark in the Gateway City to get that name. The new Busch Stadium is a part of a $646 million project, and it sits just south of the now demolished downtown stadium that shared its name. Mark Mulder takes the mound for St. Louis against the Milwaukee Brewers. In the NBA, Tayshaun Prince scored all 17 of his points in the second half, and Ben Wallace grabbed 22 rebounds as the Detroit Pistons routed the Indiana Pacers 98-73. The Pistons had 6 players score in double figures. Lindsey Hunter added 14 points off the bench, and Chauncey Billups and reserve Tony Delk added 11. The Pacers fall 4 games under 500. Indiana's Jermaine O'Neal says the Pacers don't deserve to make the NBA playoffs. Indiana has lost 7 of 8 and are 4 games under 500. The Pacers are 7th in the Eastern Conference and only 1 game ahead of Chicago and Philadelphia. After Indiana lost to Detroit 98-73 yesterday, O'Neal spoke out. He says the Pacers just haven't played defense, and the last 2 or 3 weeks have pretty much been the same thing. He says the Pacers don't deserve to be in the playoffs at this point. Vince Carter scored 25 points and Jason Kidd had a triple-double as the New Jersey Nets beat the Milwaukee Bucks 95-83 in a potential first-round playoff preview. It was the Nets' 3rd straight victory over the Bucks, who haven't beaten New Jersey since November. New Jersey got back on track after its 14-game winning streak was snapped Saturday by Cleveland. The Nets have cut Miami's lead to 2.5 games in the race for the 2nd seed in the East. Orlando handed the Heat its 2nd straight home loss, 93-84. San Antonio shaded Memphis 83-81. Tim Duncan had 23 points and 12 boards. Tony Parker added 19 points. The Spurs trailed by 6 points with less than 10 minutes left. Pau Gasol missed a potential game-tying layup over Duncan in the final seconds. The win keeps the Spurs a game ahead of Dallas in the race for the top seed in the Western Conference. 2 of the NBA's top 4 scorers will be on court tonight when Allen Iverson's Philadelphia 76ers host the Gilbert Arenas-led Washington Wizards. The Sixers are part of a 4-team mix fighting for the last 3 Eastern Conference playoff berths. The VU baseball team earned a split of a doubleheader with Ancilia College Sunday afternoon. After getting waxed 10-0 in the first game, the Trailblazers bounced back to win the second contest 12-7. VU pitcher Ian Reinhardt got the win in Game 2. He pitched a complete game and allowed just 2 earned runs. The right-hander from Holland, Indiana struck out 4, walked 1, and hit a batter. The Trailblazers have another doubleheader on tap this afternoon against Rose-Hulman at the VU Baseball Diamond. The 7th-ranked Vincennes University tennis team won the Lewis and Clark Quad Tournament Saturday, winning 4 of the 6 singles flights after entering the day in 2nd place. VU sophomore Jordan Burnett of Bloomfield High School clinched the team's victory with a 6-4, 6-0 consolation win over Matt Carmody of Lewis and Clark, after losing to Kelly Query of Sinclair 6-4, 6-1 in the morning round. The Vincennes University men's track and field team finished 3rd and the Lady Blazers 15th at the annual Little State Track and Field Meet in Indianapolis Saturday. The Blazers' only event victory was by freshman Trent Chupp, who won the long jump in Friday's field events, while teammate Daryl Provine finished 3rd. Former South Knox athlete Jacob Bosecker was 7th in the pole vault. And Emma, that's a look at your sports.
Thanks, Michael. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Expect a masterpiece.
You have to be on your best behaviour. Otherwise, when we get there, no one will want us.
I don't know how you've been brought up in London, but rules are made to be kept in this house.
Carrie Willow left London looking for safety.
She's a witch, you know.
What she found instead was magic.
This is the best place in the whole wide world, in the whole universe.
Carrie's War on Masterpiece Theater.
And that's all for this evening. For Kurt Maddox and Michael Mice, I'm Emma Hall. Good night.